Welcome to episode 9 of the AvGeeksAssemble podcast. I'm Andrew, returning this week, and I will be your host. In this episode, we have another very special guest joining us to talk all things photography, aviation, and the US Air Force. Just a quick one before we carry on. I just want to obviously thank Ant for taking the reins last week. Just a small interjection here. So basically where I was seeing my parents for the first time in months due to COVID. Just basically wanted to add a little section in here just to say we've all gone through it around the world. I just enjoyed that, and just for everyone else, meeting your friends and family for the first time in the next coming weeks and months, enjoy it. Don't take it for granted because this was something none of us were expecting. And it's nice to see that we're slowly starting to get back to some form of normal. But yeah, onwards from that. Joining me this week to speak to our special guest are Smike.
Hey, how you going?
And then for the first time on the main podcast, Alex.
Hiya, how are you?
Yeah, not bad. How are you getting on?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. Welcome aboard with the face and the voice on the screen.
Good to be here.
Obviously, as you all hopefully should know by now, Alex is the man behind the scenes who, without you, mate, a lot of this wouldn't have been possible.
Thank you.
We thank you.
Don't blush too much.
But before we introduce our guest for this episode, we do have a few items we're going to discuss. As you remember from our last couple of episodes, Ant was happy to announce that our podcast has now transitioned to a video podcast that will be available on both YouTube and Co-op Online. Co-op Online, if you don't already know, is the new venture from Rich Cooper, which is your one-stop shop for all things aviation photography. We will leave a link in the description of this video. The audio-only version of the podcast is still available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Just search for AvGeeksAssemble. So AvGeeksAssemble. Pretty long-winded, but it is what it is. Another item to note is that now, alongside our main podcast, we have a mini pod, which we have called The Debrief, which is a short form pod that will be an informal chat between the AvGeeksAssemble members without a guest. Our first debrief is already available on YouTube, so please let us know what you think. So, although we do state this on every episode, we must emphasize again that our opinions are entirely our own, and that does also go for any of our guests, either today or in the future. So now that is out of the way, it's time for our guest to join us on this flight. We're still not quite sure on the final destination, but we will see where it goes. So with us today is a United States Air Force Crew Chief joining us all the way over from the USA, Alex, aka @Viking Aero Images on Instagram. You're right, Alex, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Yeah, not bad, mate. Thank you for joining us.
Of course, man. This is something that I know we've been talking about for a while, so it's good to finally be here and see what we can talk about.
Yeah, mate. It's nice to put a face to the name as well, because obviously we have been chatting to you for a little while.
Yeah. It's that's the thing with Instagram, man. You meet so many people in a lot of different places, and it's just like you don't know who they are. And that's the cool thing about it, though, too, is you can know people all over the world and be friends with them, and then you don't even know what their face looks like.
Yep. Yeah. And obviously, because of COVID, things like Zoom have become massive. Obviously, they've been there in the past, but because of COVID, they've just exploded with popularity and mainly necessity, I guess, haven't they?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so here we are. So before we carry on, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into aviation firstly, and also how you got into photography?
So got into aviation, I guess, since birth. My dad is a pilot, has a Cessna that he flies. It's been in the family since like the 1960s. So that's pretty much where it started. His dad was a pilot in the Navy in the 1950s. He flew the P-2V Neptune sub Hunter. So that's the predecessor to the P-3 Orion and the P-8. And then my uncle was a aircraft maintenance officer in the Navy too. So I've been pretty exposed to aviation since like birth. I don't know. Anytime a plane flew over when I was little, it was just, I knew exactly what it was and everything, going to air shows since I was born. And yeah, I don't know. I didn't really start photography up until about maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago. And yeah, I don't know. I don't, it's just a hobby. I feel like I'm not the best at it, but it's more fun to just be around airplanes, I think.
Yeah, it's mad you say it though, because some of your shots are pretty outrageous. I wouldn't say you're not very good at it, but
yeah, man, I feel like I've definitely been blessed with like the area around here, and some of the stuff that happens here is pretty wild. So that always helps.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Oh, ideal. But yeah, no. So, but yeah, like I say, cheers for joining us. So what we're gonna do, we'll do a little icebreaker. So by now, you will all know that we'd like to play a little game with our guests in order to get them to get to know them a little bit better. I was actually fairly intrigued to hear Ant's new game last week, which he called Show, Base and Fly. So that's basically a geek version of Snog, Marry and Avoid. So we'll do that again on this episode as we have a new guest with us today. So for the rest of you listening at home, think about your answers and then post them in the comments below, or on our video version, or on our Instagram page or Facebook group, and just let us know what you would say.
All right. So what air show would I like to go to? That's a tough question, because as of lately, I've kind of gone away from the whole like air show side of things, and I'm more just like satisfied like spotting airplanes on my own and kind of making my own luck. But that's a tough one. I would really like to go to Riyadh at some point. It just looks, the amount, I mean, everything everybody knows, like the variety there is just unbeatable anywhere else in the world. That would probably be my one place to go for an air show. Maybe, I don't know, I've seen the Malaysia air shows get pretty wild, or at least their air displays, so that would be pretty cool. But yeah, I can't really think of one in specific that I would want to go to.
I think we all want to go to Riyadh at the moment. It's been 2 years with another one to wait.
I know. Whenever they canceled this year's, it was pretty. I know a lot of people over here were bummed because everybody, buys the plane tickets and blocks out that part of their schedule, and then obviously it's not happening this year, so it's kind of a bummer.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So the next one was, which base would you like to visit?
I don't know if I can legally say that, because I've really wanted to go to Edwards Air Force Base for a while. It's on my dream sheet for like my assignments. I just like the idea of like going there and just like touching the ground and knowing like that's where all like modern military aviation got its roots. Edwards would be really cool. Any of those places out in like the American Southwest, man, like Nellis, Tonopah, all those places, just anything where all the spooky stuff happens is where I'd like to go.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, good answer. And then the last one was, which aircraft would you like to see fly?
Which aircraft would I like to see fly? Anytime ever?
Yeah, I believe so.
That's a tough question too, because there's a lot that I would have wished I could have seen fly. I feel like everybody says this, but I would have really liked to see the SR-71.
Yeah,
that would be the one airplane that I would want to see fly, because everybody says you feel it more than you see it, and that would have been amazing.
Yeah,
you'd have probably caught the other end of that as well and filled it up out there as well. So you might have even got a bit closer than all of us.
Yeah, I wish I could turn back time and join the Air Force in the 70s and 80s instead of now, because that would have been a thing that would have been a regular thing and they wouldn't have thought anything of it. And now we look back on it and we don't even have it.
They flew over here a few times as well. Didn't they attend a few air shows this side of it?
Yeah, they came to Riyadh all the time. And then how it is now with the U2s when they go to Fairford, that's how the SR-71 used to be. So they used to do detachments at Fairford for like 6 months at a time.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
That's pretty I didn't know that either.
I'm also slightly gutted. Obviously, I know, don't get me wrong, I'm quite a few years late, but I'm still a little bit gutted about that.
Yeah, that was like between there and Kadena, Japan. That was their overseas deployment. They would hang out in Fairford and fly missions out of there, and I don't know, they did it all the time, but obviously not anymore. Which is I know we could all be excited if the SR-71 was still around, but oh well.
Yeah, is what it is. But yeah, no, cheers for those good answers. Thanks, mate.
Yeah.
So we'll move on to a few more questions. Alex, do you want to get us started?
Yeah. So obviously we mentioned before about your occupation of being within the US Air Force. What would you say is the best part about being a crew chief?
I don't know, honestly. That's a good question. I feel like we we call ourselves like jacks of all trades, masters of none, obviously. Because we do the maintenance on the airplanes, but we don't do specific things, right? So like we have the hydraulic systems on the jets, and we have avionics, and we have the electrical systems and everything. So like we can find out what's wrong, but we can't really like troubleshoot and fix everything. So we find out what's wrong and then call somebody else out to fix it for us. So, but there are things that we do, like tire changes and brakes and stuff like that. And we're just kind of involved with everything. That's probably the best part about it, is just being involved with everything and watching a jet taxi out and take off and know that it's flying because of what you did. You know, you put the fuel on it and you made sure it was safe for the people to go up on. And that's kind of what I tell myself every time I'm working on the jet is like, you know what, like the way I'm doing this, would I be comfortable with the work that I'm doing if I was going to fly on this jet? So that's kind of the way I look at it. And that's the most satisfying part, is just knowing that you're enabling it to be able to go out and do the mission, whatever it is.
Yeah, see, I was about to say, so with that, do you ever feel a little bit of pressure with that being said?
Sometimes. It's not, I wouldn't really say pressure, maybe more like, maybe not anxiety. I don't know the word for it, but like, you know, when you're doing a task that you haven't done before or you haven't done in a really long time, and it's just like, sometimes you're afraid to ask for help because there's some things that you should know, but then again, there's certain things that we don't do very often. So I don't know. Yeah, I guess there's some pressure sometimes, but it's nothing like that you can't manage. It's easy work, and you just we have books that we follow like word for word. So it's really easy.
No, all right, fair enough.
But then, I mean, there's stuff that comes along that's not in the book. So then what do you do then?
Yeah.
You know, kind of, you got to ask around to some of the older guys who have been there for a while and figure out how to do it.
I guess you just don't tell the pilots if you've had a quick pod job. I had to answer.
There's some things, man. There's some things that we'll tell them, and they're just like, "Huh, I didn't know that." They're like, "I kind of wish you didn't tell me that." But yeah, no, there's
just a quick follow on. Have you guys ever pranked anyone with like maintenance, or like made up something that doesn't exist and said, "Oh, have you checked this for someone?"
That's every day. That never ends.
Yeah. I was running down the runway holding like a nut and bolt, and you forgot these.
Oh, brilliant.
No, yeah, we joke a lot especially between each other, and like we'll get new kids and we'll ask them to go get some sealant that doesn't exist or something, and they'll go walking from shop to shop for an hour and a half trying to find whatever it is, and eventually they just give up and figure out that we gave it to them pretty good.
As someone who's been in the trade industry for about 10 years, I can relate to that one, because I've been asked to go to the wholesalers and ask for a long wait, for example. I've been asked, obviously the obvious ones, glass hammer, left-handed screwdriver, things like that. You do get a lot of them. So, but it's part and parcel. You have to expect it.
Oh yeah.
Mike, next question.
Yo, so obviously you say you haven't got many good shots in your blah blah blah, but you do have some pretty awesome things. And I mean, my favourite shot you've got is the F-15 QA, where it comes just ripping up out the base. I mean, the sound of that is absolutely awesome. And I swear, for the last however long, 3, 4, 6 months, however long it's been, all I see on YouTube videos is that clip. I mean, that surely must make you feel good seeing that clip go viral. Oh
yeah, man. It was like, so that I've seen them fly and I've seen them do that departure so many times. And every time they do it, it sounds so crazy. Like the video that I took definitely does not do it justice. And the F-15, especially the new ones, they have such a howl that like I knew people were gonna like it, and I've been trying to record it lately, but I haven't really been successful. But yeah, it's nuts watching those things do that, man, because that specific video that you're talking about was I believe that was that jet's first flight. That was QA number 8, and they flew it with no CFTs. So you know how the Strike Eagle has the conformal fuel tanks, and they can take them off for like functional check flights or whatever it is. And as of lately, they've been doing first flights with the QAs without them. So with that setup, with the weight of the CFTs taken off and the new engines, the GE F110s, as opposed to the old Pratt & Whitneys, that the Eagle without CFTs is an absolute rocket. Like literally the pilot of that flight, he messaged me afterwards and he said, yeah, we had it holding at 90 degrees nose up and accelerating through 520 knots. So
wow,
that gives you an idea of how powerful the Eagle is, man. They can point the nose straight up and they can accelerate.
That's crazy. Like so, when I first heard that, I was just in awe, and it was just like replay, volume up, headphones on, just like that.
Dude, yes, with the volume up, with the headphones on, I get goosebumps. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it right now. It's just it's incredible, man. And like whenever they do an unrestricted departure is when it's the best, because it just absolutely hauls.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Have you got a favorite shot that you've taken so far?
I've said in the past that one of my shots from Oshkosh in 2019 is probably my favorite, which it might be. The F-22, everybody calls it the Raptor Apocalypse, and it was a twilight demo that they flew. I think it was like Saturday, so it was like almost the end of Oshkosh, and there was like this storm cloud that was like moving to the south, and it made this awesome backdrop for the Raptor. And then they did pyro, and it like made this really like black cloud. And so when he flew through it, it just like the contrast and everything, the colors, like it was bright orange and black, and the afterburners, it's just nuts. And yeah, that's probably, the more I think about it, it's probably my favorite shot. I wish I would have had better equipment then, because it could have been better, but it's still, I mean, the memory is still there. So
the thing is, I know exactly the sort of shot, and to be fair, the day that you're on about, because obviously I follow, I'm sure the other guys do as well, follow a few different US-based aviation photographers out there, and the shots that did come from that, basically that evening, were outrageous.
Oh, dude, it's legendary. Everybody that like between that and like a couple other nights at Oshkosh, like that's probably the most memorable like air show memory, like that I'll never forget. That was just something that's just amazing.
Yeah, nice. Are you interested in any other types of photography as well, or?
Not really, man. Like I literally just kind of, anytime I shoot anything, it's airplanes. I've never really shot anything else. Don't really have the desire to. And just anytime I pick up a camera, it's pointed at an airplane. So,
mate, fair play. Honestly, fair play. I don't blame you.
Yeah.
What camera brand do you use? Are you Nikon, Canon?
So I'm pretty. I think I've been Canon my whole the whole time I've ever had a camera, even from when I was little with just like a little point and shoot. It was always Canon, and that's what I've stuck with ever since. I feel like there's like a rivalry between Canon and Nikon, and I don't know why, but I don't know. I'll never shoot with the Nikon.
Although it's funny you say that. Smike, when we were at Lakenheath and Mildenhall, I got really confused, because at one point you handed someone a camera and he went, "Oh, Nikon," and then about an hour later you handed me a camera that was Canon.
Mate, I've got Canons, I've got Nikons. I used to have a Cybershot thing. I got Olympus. I've had everything. I really don't care.
No, honestly,
you know what I mean?
I mean, because
in all honesty, it doesn't matter.
The thing that confused me most, I didn't realise you had two cameras, so I thought either I was being stupid or the person that you offered the first camera to was. So I was like, I'm sure earlier on he said, Nikon, this is Canon, but turns out you're not that bothered and have both.
Yeah, with my Nikon 1300D as it is, and folded into one. I'm not fussed, but like Alex says, you can pretty much get anything from anything. It is just personal preference.
What model do you have, Alex?
Right now I'm shooting with the Canon 5DS, and I think I got it in January, And like I went through during the fall of this last year, I was trying to figure out what kind of camera to get that would be better, because obviously everybody wants to improve their stuff. So I don't know. I got a 70 Mark II, which everybody was like, yeah, it's a great camera, and I wasn't really satisfied with it. And I don't remember who it was. Somebody told me to like look up the specs for the Canon 5DS, and I looked at it, and I looked at reviews and everything, and I got it, and I love it because it's a full frame as opposed to a crop sensor, so you don't get as much zoom, but what you do get is really high resolution because it's 50 megapixels, so it's really nice.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, fair play.
Cool. So Alex, favorite base you've either visited, been stationed at for shooting, or for aviation photography? And obviously, what sort of lens setup are you looking at there? Are you going for stuff that's sort of nice and compact, or are you just trying to get big lens, go get something from across the sort of airstrip as such?
I don't know. It really depends. I mean, most of the time, pretty much my go-to is always the 100 to 400 millimeter, and that's just pretty much always what I use. I just upgraded to the new version that Canon has, so that's what I use all the time. And then whenever I shoot from the boom pod in the KC-135, I use like an 18 to 55 millimeter.
Do you find you're always carrying both lenses when you go out, like on base rather than in the air as such?
Yeah, pretty much anywhere I go, I have my backpack with my camera gear in it. And because I've been bitten in the past where like I've seen something and I was like, dang, I should really have my camera for that. So pretty much anywhere I go now, I always have my my gear on me.
So you haven't lost the lens out the pod at the back, the window, flying out?
No, it's all sealed up good. But I mean, you could drop something down into the bottom of the plane and never get it back, because it'll roll into some crevice, and that's what we want to avoid, because that's FOD.
And obviously, so what would you say your favorite base has been for shooting like planes as such?
For shooting, I don't even know. I'd have to think. Mildenhall was really cool because it's just so different. It's so foreign to us, man. Like, we're over here shooting this stuff, and then you land in Mildenhall and you got a NATO AWACS doing pattern work, and that's something that you never ever see in the U.S. And it's common practice in Mildenhall. They'll come and do pattern work all the time. But yeah, I think that was probably one of the more fun places I've shot. I'm trying to think, spotting wise. I don't even know what my favorite base that I've visited is.
I guess you've
maybe
got such a big variation of, we've seen a lot, so compared to us.
Yeah, I think if I had more time, Pearl Harbor Hickam would have been really fun to shoot, because the Raptors that fly out of there, they go pretty crazy because they have to do unrestricted climbs to avoid Honolulu when they take off, so they just go straight up.
Oh wow.
But I did go, when I was in Hawaii last, I did go to Marine Corps Air Station Hawaii, which is across the island. It's on the north side. I think it's Kanoe Bay. Everybody just calls it K Bay, but it was really cool, man. Like, we walked down this trail to a beach, and I had my camera on me, and it just happened to be one of the I can't remember which squadron, but an Osprey came right over the beach, and it was it's the Lucky, I think it's the Lucky Red Lines is what they're called, and it was their CAG bird, so it was all painted up, and it was just really lucky to be on the beach, and this Osprey comes over, and I happen to have my camera, so that was cool.
Awesome.
That's class. That is cool.
I can't think of anything specifically from any base that I would like. Any trip I go on is fun, man. Like, I don't know, they're all good to me.
Yeah.
So tell us about your Instagram. So you recently flew past 50K followers, which is a pretty impressive number. How long did it take you to get there? And obviously, on top of that, have you got any tips for people that are just starting out on Instagram?
Yeah, so I feel like my story, like my Instagram, is not typical whatsoever. Like, I've had Instagram forever, since I was in like middle school. And I started the photography one, I think it was during Oshkosh in 2019. I was talking to one of my buddies, and they were like, yeah, you should, you've been taking pictures at Oshkosh for 4 years already, whatever it is. And so I decided to start it, and it didn't really do much with it for about a year. And then I think whenever COVID started, when I was bored and I wasn't working, I started posting more and kind of interacting more. And that's kind of where it took off. And I didn't really get a crazy amount of followers right away or likes or anything like that. But then I think it was like December of last year, I went on a trip to refuel what were we? We were going to Hawaii, actually. It was on the way to Hawaii. But before we went, we were going to do a C-17. And for some reason, I posted a reel of this C-17, and everybody, I guess there's no videos of C-17s refueling because it went crazy, and it literally got like 6.2 million views. And then that's where my followers came from. And I've been accused of like buying followers because like it came out of nowhere. I went from like 4,000 people following me to like 54 in like a span of like 3 days. And everybody's like, what the heck? And I was, every time I would check my phone, I would have 500 new followers. I didn't understand it. It was the weirdest thing.
That reel is currently on 16.1 million views.
16.1 now?
That's
that's the one that did it, and it's so strange to me because the C-17 is just, to me, it's boring, and I don't know why people took it and ran with it. But I guess if like any tips for anybody starting on Instagram and you want to get like a big following, like I guess post a reel of a C-17. No, in all seriousness, like I think reels are really where like the followers come from. I feel like Alex can attest to that, which is so weird because it's the weirdest thing. I don't know. You post a jet like through the mock loop and it has like a good sound to it and it has like good visuals and it'll blow up and you'll get followers from it.
Well, considering it's videos on an image-based app, considering the videos get the most followers and views.
It's so weird.
Which is quite annoying as well. But
yeah, it is
at the end of the day, it depends what you want to do with Instagram. Sometimes you've just got to play the Instagram game, haven't you? At the end of the day, if reels are what get the followers and you're looking for a following base, you play their game, which is funny because you said you were accused of buying followers.
Yeah.
Alex, Mr. AvGeeksAssemble behind the main page. I'm pretty sure on a daily basis at one point you were accused of buying followers.
I was for about 3 weeks, yeah. I couldn't afford followers.
Yeah, that's that.
I got no chance.
To me, that doesn't make any sense to me. I would never buy. I don't care about the likes. I don't care about the follows. I don't know. I just like getting my stuff out there.
Cool, share stuff. That's awesome. Like I say, if you post awesome shots, which you're going to get the followers naturally come. You get shared, people post it around, and numbers come up. That's awesome.
Yeah. No, it is what it is. It's just the way Instagram works at the moment, and it is a shame they're focusing more on reels and videos than they are photography on a photo-based app. But
agreed,
it is what it is. But so we've got some questions from the community. So we're going to start with firestriking_aviation. So, Alex, what is the most memorable moment you've had whilst being in the US Air Force?
Ooh, that's a good question, honestly. I don't know, man. There's been so many that like I always remember. I can't even think of one specifically. Most memorable moment. I don't know. Actually, I can think of one. It's actually a really cool thing that I was not expecting. So we call it dragging fighters. So we were dragging F-22s from Hawaii to the mainland US, so into California. And I remember, so we took off at like 1 a.m. and we were like, so there were 4 F-22s that went first. We were lined up on the taxiway behind them. And in front of us was a KC-10 who was also doing the drag with them. So there were 2 tankers and 4 jets. And I remember it was like 1 a.m. in Hawaii. And I just remember the Raptors taking off and like 50-foot flame out the back, like just loud rumbling at 1 a.m., just waking everybody up. And then, so we do like whenever we do a flight like that. So we got clearance from air traffic control to go as a flight. So the Raptors went, and then 15 seconds later, the KC-10 goes. And then 15 seconds after them, we went. So we took off and we were following behind this KC-10. And I remember our pilot was talking to his co-pilot. And he's like, "Hey, man, remember to stay out of the wake of that KC-10 because it's gnarly. I mean, if you know what wake turbulence is, it can be a really gnarly thing." And we were following them, like climbing through 10,000 feet to get to our cruise altitude. And we hit the wake of that KC-10, man. And I was sitting there like half asleep, just kind of not really doing anything. And I remember waking up like that fast because the airplane, we hit their wake and our jet was like 90 degrees on the side. Whoa. And I remember like looking forward into the cockpit and like seeing the attitude indicator, and it was like straight up and down. And they immediately grabbed the controls and like threw it back. And Yeah, that one woke us all up pretty good.
Get up.
Better than any
And
coffee.
then, yeah, really, like it gets your blood pumping. And you're like, what the heck just happened? They're like, yeah, we hit the wake of that KC-10. It's gnarly stuff. But that same flight, I think I'll probably remember this until the day I die. But we were back. I was laying in the pod with the boom operator, and it was a really dark night, man. Like, it was black. Like, we had the window open, and we were like looking out, and you could not see anything. Like, there was no moon, no stars. We were above the clouds, so there's like a cloud deck below us, and you couldn't see the ocean. You couldn't see anything. It was black. And the F-22, so it was like the flight of 4. So they sent one jet to each tanker to do like a pre-AR check, so a pre-air refueling check, just to see if everything works, like see if our lights are good and see if the boom works fine and everything. We'll just do like one quick contact, and then they'll go back to their own formation. And they went to the KC-10 first, and then they radioed to us, and they were like, hey, we're going to come over and do our AR check. I'll be a mile aft, and like the boomer will clear him to come in. And I remember the boomer talked to him, and he said, all right, you're cleared aft to like come up to the jet. And we were sitting there, like I said, it was black, and like you're looking into this like soup of nothing. And me and the boomer are sitting there like looking out, waiting, like, is this dude gonna come up with lights on? Like, is he gonna tell us when he's close? And he said, hey, like whatever our call sign was, he radioed, he said, I'm 50 feet aft. And like we could not see him. And I remember like I was sitting there staring into the black, and all of a sudden I see this silhouette of this Raptor like coming up in the dark, dude. It was the coolest thing. Like, he had no lights on. His cockpit was dark. Like, he was just like, he was obviously like our jet had a light on it, so he could see us, but we could not see him until he was within maybe like 25 feet. Wow. And it was the coolest thing to watch this Raptor come out of the black, and all you see is the silhouette, and then all of a sudden he just appears. It was crazy.
That is seriously cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's outrageous. Oh, mate. I literally, it's like painting a picture. I'm there trying to imagine it myself as well.
Yeah, I was as well.
That is class.
Yeah, it was like what I related to. I was like, it's like a shark, man, like in the middle of the night, like coming up to your boat. Like, that's just what it was. It was the coolest thing. And then like the Raptor has a cool profile in itself. So just seeing that like come up out of the dark. Yeah, that's probably one thing I'll never forget.
Did the entire 4-ship do that? Come up dark?
No, so it was really weird because they all had different light setups. So like one guy had like no lights, one guy just had like navigation lights, one guy just had like his AR doors open. So like when the AR doors open on the Raptor, there's a light that's inside of it. And there was like one guy who did that. And then one guy had like strobes. I don't know, it was weird. They all had different setups. It was strange.
They were just messing around with you, I guess. They were just like, hey,
they might have been. They were trying to see if they could throw the boom operator off or something. I don't know.
Class. So another question we got from G.Edmeads_photos. So if you weren't in the US Air Force, what occupation would you like to be in?
I don't know. That's a good question. I'm going for a degree in cybersecurity right now. So the one thing that I've been fascinated with like the past year or two is artificial intelligence. And to me, it blows my mind how all that stuff works. And it can be incorporated into anything. So I don't know, something like that, maybe. I don't know, maybe something aviation related. It would have to be aviation related if I wasn't in the Air Force already.
Yeah, fair play. Yeah, ideal. And then the last one, Rocketman Aviation says, Breaker 19, got myself a lot of lizards.
Julius, man, we got all the inside jokes, me and Julius.
See, I'm glad you got that because Alex sent it to me and I said, is that right? And he went, I don't know.
I didn't have a clue. He sent it to me and I have no idea what that is.
Is there a story behind that can be shared?
Yeah, that was just us messing around at Yuma, man. Like we're just sitting there in between stuff flying at Yuma down in Arizona. We were just saying random stuff to each other, and that's something that I said, and he thought it was the funniest thing in the world for some reason. I don't know.
Like I say, I'm just glad you got it because I was sat here going, please know what I'm on about, because otherwise we're gonna edit that part out. But yeah, that's what we got from online. So for those of you that asked questions, thank you. We appreciate that. But Alex, have you got any questions for us?
Not really, man. You guys are doing a good job. Like I said earlier, I'm excited to finally be on this. I know it's something we were talking about for a while, and I'm glad to see you guys follow through with it, because I know I threw the idea back and forth of doing a podcast, and then I got busy with life and everything, and didn't work out for me. But I'm really glad you guys are doing it, and it's really cool.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And like I say, we're grateful for your time, obviously, because obviously we're literally opposite ends of the ocean at the moment. So it's we're grateful that you've made the time for us. So thank you for that.
Yeah, no worries.
But yeah, to be fair, chaps, have you got any more questions for Alex?
I could sit here all day and ask stuff. To be completely honest.
Fair enough.
So, a quick one. Obviously, you take a camera up all the time, and I know you sort of try and use an iPhone every now and again. Have you ever actually sat down and tried to get into photography with like doing a class, actually trying to have a lesson in photography, or are you just taking it as you go, happy-go-lucky sort of thing?
No, I kind of pondered the idea of like taking a photography class, or like at least doing it as an elective with my college classes, but the more I think about it, the more I just like doing it like as a hobby, as something fun. And I don't want to like take it too seriously. Like sometimes it feels like work. And whenever it starts to feel like that for me, I take a step back and I'm like, got to remember that this is just like for fun. So I don't know. I would take a class like that just to learn more about the cameras and like how it works and everything. But I don't know. I haven't yet. So we'll see, maybe.
I mean, like when we go spotting, I don't use Instagram like work or anything. I post some random stuff every now and again, use it for a bit of fun. Obviously, a few of the other boys are very into it and find it a good way to use it to get out there, get published, and meet other people as such. But do you ever go spotting with someone and like have talks about gear and all that sort of stuff? Or do you try and mostly roll around by yourself when you go spotting?
Oh no, yeah, I spot lift people all the time who know way more about cameras than I do. So I'm always asking questions. I'm like, hey, what should I be using for like focal points, and like how should I have this setup working? And like I don't know the first thing about cameras, and so I'm always asking questions.
Yeah, no, brilliant. No, that's got to be done. No, that's cool. You guys got anything? Because like
Alex,
I'd sit here all day.
No, I think I'm good actually. I've been speaking to Alex for a long time, so I've asked pretty much everything I want to ask to him. I've bothered him all the time with questions.
Well, I'll follow up from something I did get asked a little while ago. I've got the time on it. With obviously what you're doing quite a secretive job for some aspect of it. Obviously, we can stand on a fence line and shoot in. Have you ever taken photos on base? Like within the actual base as such, and have you ever found you've taken photos that you can't post or shouldn't post, or do you find yourself being restrictive on that quite a lot?
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot of stuff like that. Like it's really lame. We get in arguments with our flight line security forces people all the time about it, because we have like 60-year-old airplanes, right? And they don't let us take pictures of them on the flight line. And I mean, everybody does it, but whenever they catch you, they try to tell you have to delete them and everything. And it's just, it's so lame. But yeah, I shoot on base and I don't get caught because I know where to go and like the cool places. And obviously I'm not going to post something like super sensitive or whatever, but there has been times where I've been like told to delete pictures, specifically for like the E6B Mercury. I don't know if you know, like if you guys know what that jet is. It's basically, it looks like it's a 707. It's like a white 707 that the Navy flies.
Right.
And it does the same mission as the E4B, the Night Watch. It's just like a doomsday jet, man. Like if the world,
right, yeah, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, and I took pictures of that on base, and security forces people were like, "Yeah, you got to delete that. It's like a sensitive aircraft." So I don't know. It's nothing that you can't see on Google, so it doesn't make any sense to me. But whatever. I'll do what they tell me. They have a gun.
Yeah, yeah, fair enough. Yeah, actually, I do have one more question. Obviously, before we get things wrapped up, what's your opinion of the KC-135? Are you a fan of it? I mean, I'm assuming so, but like, what do you think of it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great airplane. It's been around forever. It does its mission perfectly, better than any other jet. Obviously, I mean, they're retiring the KC-10 already because it's too expensive and it's too too complex for maintenance because it's just too hard to work on. And the KC-46 is still getting all of its bugs worked out, and it's slowly but surely coming. But yeah, the 135 is a good jet. I mean, it's obviously going to have its problems, you know, being 60 some odd years old. But other than that, it's solid, man. Like you could go a year or two without working on anything on it, and it would still fly fine. But I mean, our standards are obviously not like that. So anytime anything needs to be fixed, we fix it. So it just continues the lifespan of it. So, but it's a great airplane. A lot of guys that I know who have switched from the KC-135 to go work on the KC-46 say they'll never go back to the 135.
Oh, really?
Because the KC-46 is just so much better in every aspect. Just like working on it and everything. They took a lot of what they did with the C-17 and put it in the KC-46, so you can just plug in like a computer to it and it'll tell you what's wrong with it, and it'll run diagnostics on itself and try to fix itself, and it's just so much easier than what we're dealing with.
Yeah.
Did you see the photo recently at Milton Hall of was it 135, the KC-10, was it a KC-46 that were all sort of in a line together? Did you guys see that?
It was it was the Voyager, the 135, and I think it was the 10 as well.
It was just a size difference between the three.
Yeah, it's mental, isn't it?
135 was just like this.
Oh yeah,
the KC-10 was like huge.
The KC-10 is massive compared to our jet, man. They carry, I think, twice as much fuel as we carry.
Wow.
Which is crazy. And then the B2 can carry twice as much fuel as we can carry. A lot of people don't realize that either.
Wow.
Pretty crazy.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
So just quickly, you're not going to be a fan of the new boom operating sort of thing where it's all now on computer, isn't it, rather than looking out the window?
Yeah, I know everybody's mad about that, but if you think about it, it really does make sense, because so the way Boeing did it with their 767 assembly line, if you think about it, you're not going to design a whole new thing that you have to implement into your assembly line as opposed to just putting a camera on the bottom of the airplane. So like I get their logic, but yeah, it does kind of it takes the fun out of it. Yeah, no more opening the window and having it right in your face. It's always the best part about it, but it makes sense.
Yeah. Fair enough. Well, that just about gets us back to base after another flight. Alex, we hope you enjoyed it and there wasn't too much turbulence. What we'll do now before we finish up, we'll go around the group so you can find us on social media. So obviously tags and what we're on Instagram or Facebook. Alex, Captain Alex of AvGeeksAssemble, you first. Do you want to let us know what we've got?
Yeah, so obviously I am and we are at AvGeeksAssemble. We also have Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. There's probably a few other things, but yeah, it's all AvGeeksAssemble.
Type us in on whatever you're on and we'll probably pop up.
Yeah.
Smike, how about you, mate?
Me, I'm simply at Smike Buckley, SMIKEBUCKLEY.
And that's just Instagram.
Just Instagram.
Just Instagram. And Alex, our guest of this podcast, what about yourself, mate?
I'm just on Instagram, Viking Aero Images, man. That's the only place I kind of hang out. Everything else is just personal stuff that I don't really post
most of our
on.
followers follow you as well anyway, so they'll know who you are.
Yeah.
No, nice one. No, cheers for that, mate. But yeah, thank you all so much for joining us for episode 9 of the AvGeeksAssemble podcast. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. Please drop us a DM on Instagram or join the Facebook group if you want to give us any feedback. We do appreciate any feedback. We do listen. So thank you. In episode 10, we will have another special guest on the podcast. So this time we'll be speaking to another pilot and photographer. We've spoken to a fast jet pilot. We've spoken to a helicopter pilot. So we thought it was about time to speak to a multi-engine transport pilot. So namely, he flies a C-17 out of Charleston Air Force Base in South Carolina. So if you can figure out who we mean and you'd like to get your question answered by this aviation photographer with a very unique perspective, please DM us on Instagram or at AvGeeks_assemble, as Alex has said. I will start a topic on our Facebook group for you to post your questions in there. But yeah, thank you again for this week's guest, Alex. We do appreciate your time, as I've said. We do look forward to seeing more of your images over the summer months from stateside air shows. looking forward to those.
Yeah, thanks for having me,
thank
man.
you.
I'm looking forward to it as well. Hopefully, can get some good stuff.
Yeah, no, definitely, mate. And obviously, with the majority of our big air shows cancelled, we will be watching with envy. We've still got some stuff, but React cancelled.
Yeah,
it's not the same. But yeah, thank you. And for everyone else, stay safe out there, and we'll see you at the fence.